Welcome to the Survivor Fans Podcast. I'm Joanne.
And I'm Stacy. We're here with Russ Landau, award-winning composer for the Ancient Voices themes, soundtracks for Survivor, and many other endeavors. Hi, Russ. Thanks for speaking with us today.
My pleasure.
So I want to take you back and get a little bit of your history. Can you tell us how you got started in music?
Wow. You didn't prepare me for that one. Well, I think I wrote a song when I was 7.
It did start that young, huh?
That my mom helped me with the lyrics, and I needed to rhyme something with gal, because it was kind of a surf song, and she came up with the word morale. And since then, I've only written instrumental music.
You had that ready.
I did not
totally
have that ready.
ready.
No, I didn't.
I like that, though.
What from there? How did it develop from there? What was next then?
You
got your surf song with morale.
Wasn't good at anything else. It's not really. I mean, that's.
So it's band, high school band, or?
No, I tried to join the high school band, but the teacher was a jerk, I have to say. And he said I played trumpet a little bit, and I wanted to play trumpet in the band. And he held up this piece of music that was just nothing but black, fly spit everywhere. It was just so many. And he said, "Come back when you can play this." So I started my own band.
Yeah.
Instead, and became a bass player, and ended up going to music school, doing the thing, and classical guitar and bass, and worked my way through school on bass, and in a nutshell, basically ended up in New York and did session work and played on records and went on tours and grew. In school I studied composition. And while I was working as a bass player, I kept writing and trying to score every independent film and pilot I could, and finally it worked out.
Got a lot of great experience there.
It took 40 years.
So how did you initially come to work on Survivor?
Let's see. That was a long time ago. Well, Mark Burnett and I had met. I guess the old story is actually my ex-wife met his ex-wife before they were ex-wives. Fighting over a parking space at the Montessori school, and they got into a huge fight, and I had to come in and chill them out, and so we became friends after that, both having crazy future ex-wives.
Yeah.
We became just friends, and Mark was working on Eco Challenge, and I think that's the first project I worked on with Mark was doing some of the Eco Challenge stuff, and then Survivor happened.
So you've taken several trips around the world to inspire and create new music for Survivor and your other projects. Do you still travel for each season?
No,
to gather new...
I travel when it seems like there's a good reason to. A lot of locations are similar ethnically. I like to find the ancient voice, which is the name of the theme song is Ancient Voices. I like to find the ancient voice of a culture. If there's something unique that I can take and put into the music from it, it's inspiring and it's fun. It's it's the craft of combining the ancient stuff with the modern stuff is fun for me.
So what's your favorite place that you've been to for Survivor?
I have to say my favorite place, and one that filled with the most amazing experiences, has to have been Kenya. I went crazy in Kenya. I went crisscross the country and recorded with 7 or 8 different tribes, and hung out in dung shacks and drank bloody milk. It did everything crazy and that you could think of, and it was beautiful, and they were beautiful to share with me everything that they had, and it was very rewarding, and I love that theme song the best. Combining the old Sigalala song with the ancient voices, with the Russian in there, and they just fit together like they're made for each other, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. So, what was your production process like in the beginning?
Production process meaning
generating the new themes and then the other portions of the soundtrack.
I always based everything on what I did with the theme. And when the theme would be approved, whatever variations of the themes were approved, then I sort of basically based the rest of the pre-score elements on that.
So when you did that, I saw in some cases you were just like on site with a laptop. It looked like you were recording and mixing things.
I was recording on the laptop, and then there were a couple places where I actually, wrote music while I was there, where they gave me a shack to work in.
Uh-huh.
And in Australia, I had a shack to work in with an air conditioner, and it was great. I actually wrote probably 10 or 20 pieces of music in Australia. Kenya, I wrote a couple of pieces as well. It's hard, when I don't have my full palette and the ability to use all the equipment that helps make things sound professional and sound good. But you can do stuff on laptops now that's pretty close to what I have here. So I would write, but mostly use the laptops for recording.
And so you do most of your development work here in this studio that we're in today.
This is my writing space. Yeah.
So how's your...
Are we going to give a tour?
Yeah, sure we can.
Good, I'm glad I cleaned my room.
Absolutely. So how is that production process? Has it changed over time, or is it still pretty much the same basic plan of attack when you go into a new season?
It's the same as it's been. It works well, and I developed it between Survivor and Fear Factor when they're both brand new shows, and Fear Factor was the first time that I don't know if it it's the first time that I sort of set precedent with developing a custom library of music for a TV show. And when it's wall-to-wall music every week, it's impossible for one guy to score 46 minutes of music fresh each week. So what I did was, I built up a library of all different, genres and styles that they would need for the particular show, thematically focused on that show. And then, so I'd do that ahead of time, send in 100 or so cues. The editors start cutting. Then when I go in for a spotting session each week, maybe there's only 5 or 10, or at most 15 minutes of music that needs to be done, as opposed to 46 minutes, because they've already got the original music that they've cut in.
So you said cue. What's a cue?
Piece of music.
So
a cue is a piece of music.
Okay.
I don't call them songs because they don't have gal or morale, being sung in them. But although that might be what the lyric translates to in the Hey Lily Lily song,
No.
I'm not really sure.
No, we're gonna get there.
Okay.
So how involved is Mark Burnett and the other producers in the process now?
Very. I mean, each season when I put together a theme revision, it has to run through the committee, and the top of the committee is Mark. And until we hear from Mark that it's okay, it's not. Now, Mark put his foot down on this season. He wanted the original theme from Borneo.
Yeah, because we loved the other one you did.
Oh, shush.
Sorry.
We don't talk against,
Don't say bad things against Mark. Okay, all right. We'll have to.
He had his reasons, and and he's, made the show what it is.
Sure.
So I go with that.
Yeah, but the unapproved for this season.
I'm glad you like it. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love playing the guitars on that.
Yeah, that's very good. So how's the shift of having 2 seasons go back to back? Has that affected your process at all?
Well, it's not any different than it's been for me.
So maybe
the back to back is the shoot. Oh, because they're shooting at
the exact same location and all that. Does that make it more challenging?
Not
because you derive some things from the location itself, like you said.
The only thing that makes this challenging is trying to find what the element's going to be. Now, for this one, we had an idea, but that always morphs. And the next one, there is a specific thing that I can't reveal that makes it, have a stylistic change. And that's going to be good. And by the way, all you fans that have braved through this drudgingly painful season are going to be rewarded next season. I don't know when this is going to air, but I think it's going to be awesome.
That's good. This will go out before then, so that'll be a good setup. So you work with David Vanacore, another composer?
Yeah, we actually don't work together. We work independently and can contribute. Yeah, we do hang out and work, and we're friends. And
so how is the work divided up? Because, like you said, there's a lot of music for each episode, right? For Survivor too.
You know, he has a specific thing he has to do. Like I do the theme, he does the tribal council.
Ah, okay.
Okay. So he, you know, once we get the tone set with that, we just start, you know, cranking out music, and people, it just seems to be pretty much of an even split on what gets done. There's you know, great stylistic differences between us, which really helps the show. It gives the show, you know, lots of different energies.
Mm-hmm. And flavors. How would you describe those differences?
I'm not going to, because it's like, you know, how do I describe us? You know,
is there a signature you would?
Color? There are colors that we use differently. You know, different sounds, different melodies, different. You know, it's just biologically different. The music that I like is different than the music that he likes, enough so that there's a stylistic difference between us, and that's good. It brings variations to the show.
Absolutely.
So how do you go about creating a soundtrack for each season?
A soundtrack.
Well, what's the process like, and the timeline for the development when you guys are working together on a season?
Well, we talk to the producers beforehand, and we ask them, you know, to discuss. We get into a meeting and we discuss what are the stylistic things we're going for. What's the ethnic connections that you want to show? What are the stories that we're going to try to, you know, do any of the characters have their own themes, things like that? And we get together on that. And once that's set, we have a palette where we start from. We start cranking out music, and as the show goes into further into the season, we start realizing what the editors are being drawn to and what the producers are picking, and then we can sort of narrow down what we're writing for the rest of the season.
So do they give you themes in the very beginning?
Sometimes there's a certain thematic thing that we have to do for next season. Yes.
Okay. And for a season like, let's say, Tocantins or Heroes versus Villains, where you might have a really dramatic character.
Well, that's easy. You mean there was a certain character in Heroes versus Villains that really required his own theme.
Yeah.
Themes. What was his name?
Did he do something with sports previously?
Should we ask my assistant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Ben?
Yes, sir?
Can you come out for a second? We're trying to remember who the guy was that had all the special themes in Heroes versus Villains.
He was legendary.
And Tocantins.
He was legendary in his own mind. Man, who was that? Who could that be?
Who was the guy? Oh, it was you.
Oh, yeah.
This is good. Camera's facing up.
All right, that's good. Compose a little bit of music while he's not watching.
Coach, as a fellow musician and a composer, we'd like to get your take on the Survivor music. What do you think about it, and what does that evoke for you when you hear it?
Yeah, what's it evoke?
You know, I think that when you see the show and when you start studying the show, because I didn't know too much about Survivor before I was going to be cast to be on it, and so I started watching it. And of course, being a musician and a composer, I start hearing this music. And when I was watching, you know, a season before mine, I was wondering, and I asked myself, well, I wonder if they write new music for every season. And getting into that musical side of it, I think it definitely evokes emotions, and it promotes the drama. You know, I can remember specifically when I watched my exit episode in Survivor Tocantins, and I'm walking up this sand dune, and the music is starting to become epic, and it comes, you know, it increases and, you know, rises in pitch as I'm walking up there. And I've got to tell you, you know, if you were to see that scene without the music, you know, it would have been cool. But with the music and me walking up there, kind of this beginning or an end to this epic journey throughout the season, the music is what made it for me, because I could recognize the music, but I think it made it for all the viewers, as it does on every season. And so I remember watching that and thinking, especially because you hear this dramatic and epic music in the background, you know, I had chills all over my body watching that scene. And I use that when I go and do some public speaking. I'll use that clip with that scene, with that music, and it gives me chills every time I watch it. You know, I mean, a non-musician realizes that music is, you know, a part of our daily life. But musicians and composers understand that music is the passion and the drive and the excitement that weaves its own path throughout, you know, our daily lives. I always speak to kids and say, you know, when was the last time you heard, you know, classical music? And nobody raises their hand. And I said, when's the last time you watched a movie? When was the last time you watched Survivor? And everybody raises their hand. And I said, great, well, you just heard classical music, because that is what, you know, the modern, you know, Russ Landau is the modern symphonic composer. You know, I think that 100 years from now, you're not going to be listening to Variations on a Kitchen Sink that was written 10 years ago that has somebody beating, you know, trying to be different and beating pots and pans in a, quote, symphonic setting. What you're going to be listening to is the John Williams and the Russ Landaus of this day, and hearing that music in the concerts. So,
Can I say, putting my name next to John Williams is very kind, but John Williams is my hero.
I love John Williams. He is the man. I've got to give credit where credit is due, though. So, you know, I got to throw you in there with the mix. Ben Wade is not at that level yet, but one of these days, you know, he hopes to be there at that level.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, thanks.
That was perfect.
My turn.
So how closely do you work with the show's editors through the course of the season?
Very closely. And every once a week we have a spotting session. We go in, we look at the whatever episode is going to be airing the next week to see what music needs to be replaced, rescored.
So you do it
whatever.
just like in real time. You're not ahead or anything. It's week to week like that?
Well, actually, no. I'm about 2 weeks ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you have a little bit of time. And so you go in a
No,
spotting
I don't have a
session.
little. I have 4 days.
4 to get all
I have
that you have
4 days to do everything.
And what's your deliverables? What is it you have to deliver in that 4-day window?
It depends. It might be 15 minutes of music and a huge challenge, or it could be, you know, nothing. It could be a cymbal scrape to cover up something, you know.
Uh-huh.
Depending on, you know, on how successful I was in getting the right music in the right, you know, in advance.
So you're following that same sort of formula, like you said, with Fear Factor, where you lay down that palette. They've got a lot to choose from, and then ideally you get to,
Yes.
you only got to work on that small, like hopefully that 14, 15-minute window.
You know, we're all working together. Yeah, we have to work very closely with the Finnish editors.
And so you're in the studio with them doing that, or you're here? How does that work?
I'm here.
They get the
But
video over to you?
The day that we go spot, after we spot, we walk through where all the edit bays are, and we knock on the doors and we say, "How's everybody doing today? Need any fresh eggs?" And sometimes there's a couple of things that we'll take care of in advance. It's great when we can, do that. David goes, David and I will go together and we'll see if it's a piece that they're working on that was already started with one of his pieces, then he takes it over and finishes it. And same thing with mine. If it's a piece that started with one of mine, then I'll take it over and take it home and do a custom score on that to whatever scene.
Do you actually get to have the video here while you're working on it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, cool. So how do you create a tune to evoke a specific response or an emotion? When you're doing that and they ask you for something, how do you go about creating something to match?
For a particular scene.
Yeah. How do you translate an emotion into music?
There's two things that can happen. One thing is I look at it and it's obvious. I hear the music in my head already.
It's just there.
I just copy it down. That's the best thing that can happen. If that doesn't work, I throw my hands down on the keyboards and I noodle around until I find something that fits. But I know what emotion I'm trying to reach. So I know, I get a pretty good idea melodically and harmonically what kind of tone I want. But really the best score always happens when you look at it and it's just you hear it in your head and just copy it down.
What's the origin of the Ancient Voices theme music?
Oh, you guys all know that already. This is old news.
No, there's still people who are coming to Survivor fresh, so I think it's great to get that out there.
New people all the time.
It's based on an ancient 1,000-year-old Russian folk song called translates to "Hey Lowly Lowly." It's a circle dance, and that's the motor. That's basically that was the seed, the thread. And I use that motor throughout, and I just build this piece around that, and that's the origin of the piece was when I was working with Paul Winter, and we did this album called Earthbeat, where all of us were assigned different ancient Russian folk songs that we recorded, and and tried to write stuff, on that. I wrote this thing, which did not make it on the album. There was one of the other guys in the band got his version on that album, and my version just became, the theme for a hit TV series instead.
Yeah.
Not so bad.
No. It's done quite well for you. So how have you changed your use of Hey Lowly Lowly throughout the seasons?
Well, sometimes I can translate it into other languages. So we translate the Russian into English, and then the English into it was translated into Chinese, into Swahili, into the Aryahu in Indian. We've got a couple of different translations that have gone out, and some have been more successful than others, and some sound better than others. Chinese version came out great. My favorite is the way it blended with the Kenya and the Maasai stuff.
So can you share some of those lyrics with us?
It just so happens. This was sitting on my desk. I'm not kidding. This was sitting on my desk, folded up, tucked under there, and I don't know why, but this is exactly what you're looking for.
Is that what you took to China, or is that Kenya?
This is what I took to China, yes.
Because you said that you had come up with some contemporary lines for that translation.
Well, sometimes it sort of had to be contemporized to make sense of what it was, but it's very simple. Yeah, the China one, I decided we sort of took the essence of it. I worked with a translator, and we did something that was more poetic. The actual ancient Russian phonetically goes something like Dea yo yo le lole ya le I lo a lo le zara. Then zigadayo karavo aya homa de bawa baro, which sounds just like the Survivor theme, right? It goes Dea yo yo le lo ya lo la zara, something like that. Okay, and that translates to Hey ya yo le lole. Okay?
Deep.
Quit your laying around all lonely. Got to. And then the next thing is either let me be in the arms that hold you. Oh, wait a second. Or, we have to go back on this.
Okay.
This is sort of a modernized interpretation of what that meant. But it's just like, let me be in the arms that hold you, break free of your chains. She's asking her, let you be in the arms that hold you. Break free of your chains, or 2, break free of the chains that bind you and fall into these arms that hold you. Now that was trying to give it an English rhyming structure and meter. Really what it means is get yourself down to town tonight and dance under the moonlight.
No, so you made it contemporary?
Well, that's the one that we actually ended up using for China.
Mandarin, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's some more things like, there you are, lily, lily, don't you wait another moment, 'cause that rich man's fence can't lock you in. He may have money, but you got friends.
This is not what I expected.
Then hey lily lily, it's on you to make the story come out. Yippee-yi-yo-ki-yay tonight and dance under the moonlight.
All right.
Okay, it's a circle dance. It's
What
sort
does
of
that
a
mean?
fertility thing. It is the story of a girl, Lole, who married the rich guy in town. All her friends wanted her to come out and play. And she's probably 12. It's 1,000 years ago. Old age was 17, I think. All her friends are standing outside her fence, throwing rocks up at her window, trying to get her attention, saying, "Come on down and let's party." And that's what the song's about. And how that relates to Survivor, it's ancient, it's visceral, it's.
I like the "come on down, let's party" part.
Yeah, it's
that's what it means when it comes
good.
on.
It sounds good, and
Yeah.
it started from a sound before I knew what it meant, and that's really where it came from. And it's fun taking what it is and trying to figure out how to make it fit, in different languages and have it say something that is poetic. And and we do, when I say we, I mean whoever I'm collaborating with and translating, we try to find a nice turn for it. So.
Yeah. So, are there ever any Easter eggs or hidden elements in your compositions? Do you ever put anything in, like maybe another musician would recognize, or something that we could listen for where you're having fun playing around with the music?
You mean secret messages when
Yes.
you play it backwards?
Okay, that would be an example.
Not until tomorrow. Now that you've put the idea in my head, I'll stick some secret messages in.
Yeah?
I'll put something in. That's a
Okay.
good idea. I think it's been enough of a crazy message along, just getting this, keeping up with the show and keeping it fresh. But I think it's time for a secret message.
Excellent.
Okay.
So what do you feel you gained personally from your experience working on the Survivor soundtracks?
Well, I became the reluctant ethnomusicologist on here.
I like that.
Yeah, I did learn a lot of, about music of other cultures from working throughout my previous working experiences and producing records with Paul Winter and touring, and this was a way for me to expand on that greatly, and I've had amazing acquaintances and friends and relationships with people, and they shared their cultures, and I tried to be respectful of that, and had a great time. It's really been very interesting and a lot of fun.
So you worked not only on the U.S. Survivor soundtracks and creating all that, but you did that for the UK and
UK version is like they've made in like 70 different countries. It's all over the place. But all I did was, I created a library for them. I don't score anything for them. A theme. I created a theme and a library.
What does that mean, a library?
I created an original package of music for them. A couple hundred pieces of music that they can use to make their shows with. I don't have anything else to do with it other than that I delivered that package.
So when you were working on that, how did you structure that? Were there emotions that you were going for?
There's there's a tasking, there's action, there's sadness, there's.
So you've got a sort of a taxonomy that you worked from to develop.
Mm-hmm. I guess you'd say a taxonomy, although I haven't. Is that like the killing and stuffing of animals?
No, that's taxidermy.
Yeah, I know.
Close.
Kidding. There's just a certain
It's a T
basically
word.
genres of music that they need for emotions and feelings.
And that library gets used in all the other international versions.
Most of them, yeah.
Excellent. So
It's not nearly as they don't put the money and time into it that happens in the U.S. version, obviously. So they're dependent. Those are much lower budget shows. The U.S. version the production value is incredibly high, and they can afford to have all this original music each season, and it's just, and the show is so much better for it.
absolutely. So
Although in a lot of other countries they actually can show breasts without having the little fuzzy, blurry things.
Oh yeah.
The French version especially. It's really hot.
You've seen that one?
No, my wife won't let me look at it.
That's good. You're safe now. So here's something we got from a Survivor fan, Tyler, sent us, and he said, "Here's a truly random thing I noticed when I was listening to Ancient Voices. If you listen to the seasons that have some heavy chanting in the music, whatever gender it sounds like does not win. So in season 3, it sounds like girls, and Ethan Zahn wins. In season 4, there's men grunting, and Vesepia won, and so on. And it goes on for several weeks.
You win the prize. You're the guy that figured it out. And there's the winner music. Quick. Okay, sorry about that.
No problem.
This is what it's like.
So Tyler's got this great observation. He thinks he's figured it out.
Well, you heard the winning music. We played that. He came in from the thing. It was just like the winner theme. Did you hear that? When the phone rang?
Is that what it was?
No, I'll just call it that.
Okay.
No, I didn't. I think it's an accident unless something that it's impossible for that to be true.
Okay. So there you go. Keep hope alive.
There you go, Tyler.
What's the process like for the finale? How do you go about putting that music together? And
The finale twice a year is the most fun I have twice a year. I get to play with the best drummers and best guitar players, and we put together a fun little band and have these amazing 15-second jams. If we're lucky, sometimes they're 5 seconds. But then we get to play a little bit, and it's just it's exciting and nervous. The director is always in my ear, giving me cues when to come in. Usually something along the lines of, okay, music in 10, 9, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, quick, bring the music in. That's usually what it's like. So, and I'm trying to calmly do that and then bring the music out. And it makes it exciting. And luckily, the guys all, they know how to roll with the punches on this one.
So do you get a chance to get together and practice ahead of time, or?
Yeah. We're going to do a little thing today, actually. We're just running a couple of grooves here in the studio, and just in like you met coaches here, and coaches in town, so the coach is going to jam with us a little bit, just in case Jeff lets him play, join us on stage and play with us, because he's quite a good trumpet player.
I've heard that.
Okay, so what's next for you? What are you doing now?
I'm doing some things, that are related to what work that I've done on the show. One of the things is this new music library that I've gone into partnership with, called Music Box, and we're releasing all this huge library of my material for editors to use. It's called Epic. It's just called Epic, and it's coming out in a couple of weeks, so we're really proud of it. It's huge. Excellent. And it's so other people on other reality shows can use my music without me having to be there.
Yeah.
The newest thing is, well, it's not any newer than the library. It's simultaneously we took all my African recordings, and I went into a partnership with Sonokinetics. Did I talk about this already?
That's okay. You can say it again.
I did. Yeah. So Maasai, the Maasai collection is coming out, and it lets everybody have the same access to the field recordings of different tribes, and they can play them. And I went through a lot of work to get this stuff, and now it's organized in a way that makes it easy to play. It's in a contact player, and it looks really cool. Let's see. Maybe I can even make some sounds. Let's see. That's what it looks like. And we'll bring it up here. Let's see if I can play this. So this is, I can just play it on the keyboard now. So that's coming out today. It's called Maasai, and this is not an advertisement for it, but I am very proud of it. And it actually makes my job easier. Now I'm going to be able to use all that stuff in a much more organized way in my new compositions. So, and everybody else can too.
Well, Russ, thank you so much for sharing with us today and letting us come into your studio. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I'll look for you on the red carpet.
All right.
Oh, yeah, great. And good luck to you.
Thanks.
It's so nice of you to let us.
Okay. Nice. So this is, we should try one more thing on something that we actually play on the,
All right.
in the breaks. Kind of a reggae thing that we do, a ska thing that is professionally called Bob. And it's in, we can play it in any key for you, but it's actually in, it goes D, A, but it's kind of a ska. Pain vibe to it, maybe.
2 and 4, you mean?
No, actually, let's just play. Let's do it with a more of a reggae bottom and keep the busy top thing going. So it kicks on.
2 and 4?
Yeah. 2, 3, 4. One of the things that we're all fighting for, whoever we are, we being the working fans, are that anybody that gets voted out, or no, anybody that quits, does not get to be on, cannot stick around and vote for the winner. There's no way that they can be out. That doesn't make any sense at all.
No.
And we're all like, we're upset with that. It's not fair. Why should they get to?
Yeah. So we're here with Russ
Just help
Landau. We're going to get his
determine who wins.
impressions of the finale. So what did you think?
Well, I'm really glad that Fabio won. We're all real happy about that. I didn't think he was gonna. I was worried.
Yeah, I was kind of pulling for Holly myself, but I was happy for Fabio too.
Okay.
So do you think the finale helped the season as a whole?
Yeah, I think it did. And, it's always good to hear Jeff, off the cuff, live. You never know what he's going to say, and there's some real fun things. And for me, it's a great release after being in the studio all season long. It's nice to get out and play, and we had some fun.
Excellent.
How'd it sound?
How did it sound?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, wonderful as usual.
Duh, of course.
So when can we expect the soundtrack for this season?
Good question. I haven't really thought about it.
Okay.
I'm not sure that I'm going to release one or not because, how many do we need to have out there? Maybe I'll combine it with next season. I'm not sure. We're going to
Still up in the air.
I'll, decide. I'll get my music editor in there and see what we have. If we have a nice record that we think the fans will like, then we'll put it in.
So you take it that way every time. Then you go in afterwards and look at everything that you have.
It's not about selling records. It's just about there's fans of the music, and we like to keep them happy. And I don't want to put out something that's boring. So I'm gonna check and see what we got.
Okay.
So
Sounds
next season starts February 16th. When can we expect the Ancient Voices theme?
Maybe tomorrow.
Oh.
I don't know. It might be done. I've been working on it.
Okay.
I've been working on next season over the last month, actually. So we're kind of crossing seasons. We always do between the fall season and the spring season. We cross and we start working on the next season. So, I'm waiting for final approval from Mark, and we'll see.
Okay.
Thanks, Russ.
We look forward to
you.
it. We can't wait for it. Okay.
See you next time.
Good to see you.